All right, well, thank you for having me. It's really excited to be here. I actually think I gave the first lightning talk. I think David Rosen was scheduled, but he was having technical issues, so I scooted into the very first spot. So really happy to be here. And as Rachel mentioned, yeah, I started my journey once COVID hit as crowded learning, and soon into the work and realizing the scale of what was needed around ed tech, joined World Education because of all of the amazing work that was happening here. So if we want to move to the next slide. So the talk that I gave back in November 2021 was part of a mobile learning initiative work that we were doing here at the EdTech Center. And specifically, we were starting to consider, after a year plus into the pandemic and seeing what I would just classify as chaos, at the start, where everyone was getting trained on all sorts of different technologies and tools. Here's a half-hour lunch and learn. Here's a EdTech Tuesday, pick a thing. And we were getting inundated with kind of this drinking from a fire hose of ed tech, with not necessarily considering what's the strategy behind it, what are the specific needs of the learners or the teachers, all well intended. But we started recognizing some of the things that were needed was more of a strategy-based approach to the implementation of ed tech. And I have to actually applaud Chris' class with her talk, because that talk in particular, I encourage folks to watch, because that was the way that they walked through their thinking process of building out that Weebly class was, of course, was so centered around learners and centered around instructors and what they wanted to be doing with the technology, not only in the moment, that was very early on in the pandemic, but thinking strategically about how this could be used beyond. And that's really what we started to focus on here. And so the idea came about of developing what was called an EdTech integration strategy toolkit, where it thought really strategically about what is it I'm trying to do with technology, and thinking about the ways that the points of entry for that consideration. It might be because I have a classroom routine that I regularly do with students, and I want to transfer that into an online environment. Jamie Adelson Goldstein is on the call, and she had done some amazing early work around transferring those high impact routines into an ed tech distance learning environment. Or maybe I've been, by force or by comfort, decided to start using a specific ed tech tool with my learners. And so what types of things can I do with that tool so that I'm not having to teach all of these different tools to my learners, and I'm not personally having to learn all of these different tools, but settling in on a specific tool? Or what are the skills that are needed? As Travis mentioned earlier, our EdTech integration should be rooted in developing the skills that learners are going to need to be successful. And so maybe my focus around using technology is around a specific skill or set of skills that I know my learners are going to need, and how can I build those into regular practices that I do? And so we released the EdTech strategy toolkit in November of 2021. If you want to go to the next slide. Um, my recommendation is that we really continue to consider that strategic underpinning of using technology. So if you click once, sorry, I built animations. I'm not used to not driving. So we have the toolkit, and there are links that I'll share after, but we have the toolkit, and all of the routines that are in this toolkit are designed in such a way that, what is the routine? Why would you do this routine? So what is the actual strategic benefit of it? And ideally, there's evidence-based strategies. I see Sarah Casiccio on this call. All of the strategies actually build off work that she did when she was at Digital Promise. These are evidence-based strategies that underpin each of the routines in the toolkit. And then how do I do it? So what does this look like? So things like just leveraging KWL in a digital environment, or leveraging exit tickets. These are two kind of common routines that we know exist. Those are in there, and there's templates for helping teachers just take that and use it. But what's really cool about, since we launched it, is it's been sort of expanded within our own work and beyond. And so we, through our Ideal Consortium, designed a course called the Building an EdTech Strategy Toolkit course. And there's a link that I'll share that shows what's being shown here is a set of routines that were developed out of that course. So this is really an intensive course that we run where we teach teachers how to think about who are my learners, what are their needs, what are their motivations and goals, what's their tech levels, and designing routines centering around the learner, which is a really important part of quality instructional design and just sustainable educational technology use. And then this is furthered even beyond that with some of our work outside of the EdTech Center. If you click again, we had a digital literacy initiative through the city of Boston, and they built out a routine library working with over 25 programs across the city of Boston and teachers. They've developed this library of over 70 routines. And again, these are all routines that you can do on a regular basis with learners. And then finally, we've actually started implementing this into some of our EdTech Makerspace work as well. And as Travis mentioned earlier, wanting learners to be focused on skills like critical thinking and collaboration, those teaching skills that matter skills. If you click again, we ran a EdTech Makerspace where we had teachers consider how can you implement teaching skills that matter using strategic EdTech routines. And again, thinking about not reinventing the wheel every single time you're trying to do an activity that involves technology, but doing something that creates a sort of familiarity with your learners and with the teacher and allows for these sustained practices. So we've really had fun building upon this work and working with teachers to really consider what do I want to do with tools and what do I want learners to learn how to do either with technology or what do I want them to be doing, period. We love the flexibility. We love that these can be implemented into any type of instructional model, as we know those have flourished over the past 2 years, and there's a lot of different ways in which we are providing access to learners. And so we also like that these tend to be open. So we're really pushing the needle and making sure that the things teachers do design, they design them in a way that they're reusable to others. So really excited to have been able to launch that work here at the EdTech Strategy session, and glad to be able to continue it.